Hey everybody, this is Perch, and it's like autopilot at this point that I say this. I mean, I need to come up with some new intros to kind of spice it up. Like, hey, let's have tacos. It's Perch, or who wants some beer? Somebody else is buying, not Perch. I don't know, something like that. I just need to, you know, comments below. Somebody sent me a mail that was a really good suggestion, and it got lost in all the other mail, and I hate the way Gmail works because that's a whole topic in and of itself. But regardless of all that. The suggestion was, hey, at some point you should change the little poo avatar that you kind of, fell into by accident into something else. So you should do a contest and, let a bunch of people put in, some suggestions for an avatar, and they can send you stuff, and then somebody can win, and that'd be cool. And I like that idea. I think that's awesome. I'd love to have people's ideas and everything else, but I also would feel like I want to pay them. Like I don't. If you're sending me something, I want to pay for it. A few people have sent me kind of comics and things are selling on Amazon, and I always like, oh man, I just want to give you cash. So like one guy sent me a book, and like, oh, that's cool. I'm just going to go ahead and buy it in addition to your gift because you should have some money. Anyway, that's it, these little things. This is one of those things that to me is really obvious, but I keep getting the impression when I read the comments, and I do read all the comments, I get the impression people don't get it. And so I want to kind of lay this case out here. Because again, fair is fair. That's always kind of my mentality. That's it. We should try and all play by the same rules. Now, I grant you, some people cheat, and if you're trying to play by the rules while the other person's cheating, then you're at a disadvantage. And that's why I would suggest don't play the game in the first place with people who cheat. But in general, when we're talking about comics, we all love comics. If we all want to read more and do more, and we want things to change in one way or another, then we need to play fair by being honest about the rules and what things are happening and everything else. Now, again, acknowledging not everybody plays fair. There's certainly a lot of games being played. There's somebody who you can always tell trolling, like the people who show up in mail like, hey, your point of view is really good and a breath of fresh air. Can you just give me your name and address? I'd like to send you some information to help your case. It's like, yeah, okay. I see what you're trying to do there. You're not very good at it. Anyway, comics, it is very easy to be mad, pissed, whatever it is, against the creator, against the writer of the comic. Sometimes the artist as well, but it's really the writer that takes the brunt of a lot of things. So, when we talk about a comic like, because I recently did it, The Wasp, The Unstoppable Wasp, I'll use the right name this time, by Jeremy Whitley, it's very easy to say, hey, this comic was bad, look, it didn't sell well, damn that Jeremy Whitley. However, it's really important people digest the fact that Jeremy Whitley is not like walking into Marvel and going, hey everybody, guess what? We're publishing The Wasp next week. This is the script, and this is the direction I'm going, and here's what we're doing. And like editorial comes over, it's like, ooh, I don't know. I don't think we don't really have a lot of all 18 girls that are going to comic shops, so I'm not sure this take. Also, a lot of our customers, when they think of The Wasp, they think of Janet Van Dyne, and we just did this storyline where Hank Pym is like a crazy murderer monster merged with Ultron, and he's got some kind of Ultron base somewhere in the Arctic or something is going on there, but he's like a killing machine. So I don't know if we're going to do this Wasp book aimed at early teen girls who like science. It's not a good fit. And Whitley's like, nope, screw you. I'm a creator. I'm a writer. I'm doing it anyway. This is what we're doing, and you just gonna take what you get, you bastards. That's not what happens. It is the opposite, almost the exact opposite of that. Well, not the exact opposite, but what's happening is the company, the publisher, are asking for these pitches. The company, the publisher, the editorial is saying, hey, I got an idea on the train this morning or when I was getting my coffee. We should do a comic for teenage girls. Here's somebody who's on Twitter talking about teenage girls a lot. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. Here's somebody who has expressed an interest in science and all the rest. Hey, I'm going to reach out to Jeremy Whitley. I'm going to send him a DM saying, hey, I got this project. Would you be interested? It could be kind of fun. You seem like a good fit for it. Would you send me a pitch? And so Jeremy Whitler would send that pitch, and the editor would be like, hey, this is great, but I want you to change this and this. Or they would kind of move some things around, and the title gets done. But when the title goes wrong, when it doesn't sell well, and as we saw, the Wasp was selling in the 5,000s, so poorly, it didn't catch on with schools and Scholastic and that audience and everything else. It didn't. From all accounts, they didn't even try to really get it into places like Target or Walmart or others and kind of push it there. So when it fails, who gets the blame? Well, if you read kind of the comments, a lot of my videos, or you go online, or you go on Twitter or stuff, Jeremy Whitley gets the blame. But is that fair to Jeremy? Now you could argue, well, he could have written a better story. They could have told him to do this pitch, and then he could have like sneakily wrote a completely different story that was like the Terminator and delivered that. Well, they wouldn't have printed that story. That wasn't the story they asked him to do. That wasn't the story he pitched for. That wasn't what they said we wanted. So, again, the quality of the story, of course, is on the creator, but it is very important that people recognize that a lot of these stories are being requested, commissioned, basically asked for by the publisher, by the editorial. They're the ones who are really the source of a lot of these decisions. It is not the writer kind of randomly coming up with these ideas and then things happen. And why this is important is just, in the spirit of kind of helping everybody understand each other. A lot of people will go on Twitter and then they'll write things like, SJW, Jeremy Whitley is an asshole, and they'll, your title sucks, and they'll tag him, and then Jeremy Whitley, blocks them, and then they post 50 more times how Jeremy Whitley is an asshole. And, again, that's not fairly looking at the situation. Yes, Jeremy Whitley wrote the story, but Marvel wanted that story, pushed it, decided to pay him for it, assembled the team. In a lot of cases, in most cases, the writer is not showing up going, and I'm going to have this artist, it's going to be done in this style. No, editorial saying, hey, here's a couple people you could work with. Sometimes the writer, is asked for their opinion, like, hey, who would you like to work with? And the writer's like, oh, these people would be okay. And sometimes they come in. But more often than not, it is this is all driven from editorial. And that is, that's where it's coming from. So it feels unfair that the writer gets 99% of the attack or the blame or the videos or whatever it happens to be, when it is definitely a company decision, and in a lot of cases, far more of a company decision. I'll say this again, and I noticed from the previous video I did in the comments people were getting it. It's absolutely true that there are young girls out there who are interested in science and STEM and all that. It's very true. I have two young girls, 7 and 10. Both are interested in science. Favorite subject in school. They like it. Both, I think, are smart, although, if you've heard some of the videos where they review She-Hulk, you might say otherwise, but they're smart. They're smart girls. And they like this kind of stuff. However, you're talking to a guy who actually runs a comic shop. And my girls don't want to go hang out in the comic shop. When we go to other comic shops, they want to look at the plushies, they want to look at the toys, that's what they want to do. Now, when we go to, a place like Barnes & Noble, my older daughter wants to go straight to the manga. My younger daughter goes to the young adult section, or the young, all ages is looking at Dogman and other things. That's what they're doing. So there is definitely a market. Absolutely, there's a market for this. There's a lot of girls out there who would be into something that is kind of illustrated, fun, girl scientists. Absolutely, that's true. It's not a bad idea. The bad idea part is as soon as you say, all right, and we're going to print it in traditional floppy size, which is, not, the stuff that's succeeding in this market is all digest size. It's smaller. It's being sold in grocery stores. It's being sold at Walmart and Target and bookstores. It's like, look at Raina Telgemeier, look at the, Babysitter Club, this kind of stuff. Look at the size and format of those books. That's what's moving. So if you say, hey, let's do a girl scientist kind of adventure book, cool, okay. Let's do it with the Wasp. All right, that doesn't necessarily make any sense whatsoever. I mean, because the audience doesn't know about the Wasp, doesn't care about Hank Pym or any of that kind of stuff. Zero interest in it. You could call her the Wasp. You could call her Yellow Jacket. You could call her the Flying Bumblebee. You get sued by DC. You could call her Magical Girl Scientist Rainbow Hair. You could do whatever you want. It's all going to be about the same. Who's making those decisions to solicit a WASP comic in this format and print it in a floppy size and then later put out in graphic novel format for like $20? Not Jeremy Whitley is the answer to all those questions. And so it is understandable to me, having talked to a number of writers and talking to a writer yesterday, who they get perturbed because they say, look, we're hired to do this. Somebody comes and says, hey, would you pitch for this? Here's some money. People like money. They write the pitch they're asked for. They try and do the best they can with that. They have zero control over the cover, the spine, the trade dress, how it's printed, where it's sold. They have zero control over any of that. Yet then they have to go on Twitter and hear people call them, assholes for doing a crappy job. And no writer will say this because it will cut off their meal ticket. But what they're all thinking is, hey, jerks, why aren't you beating up on the editors? Why aren't you beating up on the people who actually made these decisions? Hey, anybody want to write some angry mail saying that David Gabriel's publishing strategy is stupid? Would you want to try that? Like that's aiming your anger where it belongs. Now, don't get me wrong. Several writers who are doing this kind of stuff post obnoxious, douchey, really antagonizingly annoying stuff on social media. No doubt about it. So that is, the expression I would use. I don't know if this common expression is. That's called leading with your chin. It's begging to get punched when you behave like that on social media. And so there's no sorrow I have for any of that. But at the same time, I think there's a strong argument to say a lot of the criticism over the current strategies are going to the wrong people. They're going to the publicly facing people. And bluntly, I think a lot of people who are in editorial or publishing are largely getting away with this stuff because they have this human shield in front of them, who are the writers and the creators who are taking all the heat. Because if you look at the cycle of how things happen, notice, if you will, that a lot of the writers Marvel's employing in, say, 2006, or your Sina Grace, your Gabby Rivera, all those people, mysteriously, they are all gone. They've gone on to other places. This is the writer for Maneaters points this out of like, hey, I was asked to come in and do a very specific pitch for a book. I am who I am. They hired me. They told me to do it my way. I did it this way. They told me how it was going to be. They were happy with the asked me about my feminist agenda T-shirt on Mockingbird, all that kind of stuff. They were all into it. They encouraged it. And yet when the fans started saying, hey, this sucks, total silence. Nobody stepped up and on the editorial side and said, that was what we wanted. This was what we commissioned. This is what we paid for. This was our vision. No, dead silence. And instead, the writers got beat up on. So what happens 2 or 3 years later? Oh, what do you know? Sina Grace, Gabby Rivera, all these people are gone. They're not at Marvel anymore. There's a new crop of people, largely doing the same stories, same pitches from 2017. Largely the same stuff, different people. Marvel, meanwhile, goes, oh yeah, quietly, passively, kind of with a wink. Oh yeah, those creators that you didn't like, who didn't sell very well. Yeah, we got rid of them. We replaced them with new people who are doing the exact same thing that we asked them to do. But yeah, we heard you. We got rid of those bad writers that weren't writing anything. To me, that's unfair. I know there's a lot of other aspects to this. There's, again, a lot of personal behavior, choices, things people write and say and do. But I do have some sympathy for the creator who's sitting there on Twitter going, you dicks, everybody, one side is crapping on me. The other side has mysteriously gone out to lunch and are completely absolving themselves of the decisions they made. And to me, that's my definition of fair is fair. Just for what it's worth, sharing another side of things. Again, I have this feeling a lot of people forget the fact that most of the comics you read, the vast majority of them, particularly for the big two, the writer is told to pitch based on a certain premise. So what you are getting, what you are reading, is not a 100% vision of the writer. If you're over at Image, you are getting or at least, for all intents and purposes, you're getting the true vision of the creator. You're at the indie level, that's what you're getting. But it's big two. No, you're getting a committee project where the actual writer arguably is one of the smallest pieces of that pie. So anyway, for what it's worth, like I say, fair is fair. I know this is not a popular opinion. All the people can come in and tell me I'm a dumbass for saying this, but I think we got to be fair about these things. And I do notice that editorial, I think, get remarkably less critique than the writers, and that seems a bit backwards. So, what do you think? Tell me how stupid I am. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.